Now, it all kicks off with the early Friday game. It is Leeds United in 14th, taking on West Ham United. This one's your 4 a.m. kickoff on Saturday. Leeds have 1 win, 3 defeats in their last 5 outings. It started very well for them, Leeds, Des. It's kind of petered off a little bit. They're mid-table now. They're probably going to be safely mid-table this season. But what was strange was in a press conference on, I think it was Thursday, or it could even have been Wednesday night, Bielsa just came out and gave out his entire starting 11. He went, right, here's the team. And he just reeled it all off. Refreshing, this type of management style.
Yeah, they're good fun to watch. We talk a lot about them, and Bielsa's pressing tactics make a lot of news. Their home form, though, is pretty lousy. I think they've only won 1 of their 5 games at home, and they've only scored 6 goals at Ellen Road, which suggests that if they can't get in round the back and the ball for Bamford into space beyond the opponents, then they struggle to break teams down. West Ham won't do anything more. I might have to reassess my thoughts on West Ham, because I thought they would drop like a stone. But it looks like David Moyes has got them well organised, and they're scoring goals from all over the pitch. It's not just about Antonio. So they're scoring goals from all over the pitch. I can see this one being another really tough one for Leeds, because West Ham won't give them that space in behind the back 5, as West Ham use, that Leeds seem to thrive on to score goals. They'll be fun to watch, but they're finding scoring goals difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. West Ham, I mean, Bob, it's weird to say that since COVID's affected him, he's been a top manager, David Moyes.
You think that did the trick, do you, COVID?
No, I don't know. It's all coincided. From since he had to stay at home, the results started improving. Even when he came back after COVID, I thought they've been great, right?
Yeah, well, he had more thinking time. But I think he's got his mojo back, hasn't he? I think the Man United job did kind of hit him a bit. I think he lost confidence there. He didn't do much at Real Sociedad, probably the wrong move. Never bothered to learn the language or anything. But West Ham with low expectations. I mean, yeah, Des is not the only one who thought they'd drop like a stone. I think he's benefited from that. Even their own fans, they didn't want him. But because they're not there to demonstrate against him every match, that's probably helped. He's gone along quietly and restoring confidence in the team. They've got some decent players. Declan Rice has emerged, I think, as quite a towering holding midfielder in front of the back 4 or 3, whatever it is. And he's managed it without his star, Antonio, who's injured again, never really recovered from that hamstring. But Haller, the much maligned Haller, for whom they paid 40-odd million and was a complete flop, is starting to show his wares, isn't he?
2 goals in the last 3 for him now.
No, 5. He scored 6 or 7 this season, which was
the League Cup and all that.
3 times as many as he got last season. Anyway, West Ham, I think you can say, I know you were joking about COVID, but I think given the circumstances of David Moyes not being popular with the fans and the fact that there's no atmosphere there now at all, so you don't notice the lack of atmosphere, if you can understand where I'm coming from. I think that's helped West Ham. So they built some sort of team spirit there, and David Moyes is very good at that. He fostered a great team spirit at Everton, siege mentality, that sort of stuff, and very good at set pieces, well-drilled defence. These are the hallmarks of a David Moyes team. And West Ham have done all right. I just hope that if crowds come back, they don't turn on him. That would be an irony, wouldn't it?
It would be an irony. All right. As Des mentioned, Mikel Antonio, he's struggling with a hamstring injury. Said Benrahma, signed from Brentford, could be given his first start by Moyes. He looked actually quite good when he came on as a sub against Manchester United. Leeds United, you can see their full lineup on any website because it was named. Luke Ayling is going to play at centre-back. Rodrigo Moreno is going to be a more creative role in front. It is your early game, or it's your Friday night game, late Friday night, early Saturday morning. Leeds in 14th, West Ham in 8th, 4 a.m. kickoff. Moving on to Crystal Palace, who are 11th, taking on top of the table Spurs. This one is Sunday, 10:15. Spurs just came off a Europa League win. In fact, they won their group. They beat Antwerp 2-0 with a largely reserved side. Jose knows how to manage his teams, doesn't he, Des?
Yeah, I'm not a Jose supporter, but I'm a big fan, if you understand the difference, of the way he's able to set up teams. I thought he got a raw deal at Man United, and he's making Tottenham competitive. He's got remarkable stats. I was looking at the Tottenham goal scoring, and it's over a third of their goals come very early in games. So we mentioned this about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer before. Clearly, there is something in the Tottenham setup that really gets them going very early on. It's a phenomenal number of goals that puts them into a winning position, that plays into Mourinho's tactics of being able to sit back, give away possession, and then pounce through Kane and Son, who have just shared all the goals amongst them. So Tottenham look very interesting. But this, against a horrible Palace side who won't come to attack them, could be the kind of game that they do struggle on, because it's great if you're hitting on the break, but if you're not able to, again, as I mentioned in the early game, West Ham or Leeds, if you can't get behind the opposition, if Son isn't given that space behind the opposition, you'll probably tank one in from 25 yards. But you understand, it's more difficult for Tottenham to play that Mourinho way. So this could be an awkward one for them. First goal, so important in this game.
For me, the main difference between Spurs and United, Jose Mourinho, is every single player buys into the Mourinho ethos now at Spurs, whereas I don't think Jose ever had that at Man United. A little look at the opposition. Now, Des said they don't score a lot. That's a bit cruel on them, Bob, because they hit 5 last time out, didn't they?
Come on.
Didn't Benteke score a couple? No, but I mean, that coincided with the return of Zaha, and again, he proved how important he is to Crystal Palace. If he's on form, he can actually cause Spurs problems.
Yeah, he can. A couple of years ago, Pochettino really wanted to sign him for Spurs, thinking that he was going to be not the extra sort of wide player that they needed. But it didn't happen, and I think he's got the potential to trouble them. I think England missed out when he chose to represent Ivory Coast, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think he's a top player, Zaha. Don't forget Manchester United signed him. Alex Ferguson's last signing. Bit of a story there, wasn't there? A non-story in the end, but David Moyes never really gave him chance. Didn't work out, but he's got it. And we saw last week a couple of goals. And whoever plays at right back for Spurs, probably Aurier, is going to find his work cut out, I think. In fact, I wouldn't play Aurier there against Zaha. I think it's asking for trouble. But Jose will have it sorted out. Palace are an awkward side. Every time I forecast their result, I get it wrong. Just when I think that they're going to fade into oblivion, they'll produce a win like last week, 5-1 against West Brom. But they did okay, and I mean they've got Easy, who's quite a player, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And Benteke is actually stirring again after looking as if he'd lost it completely. He did score about 30 goals one season, don't forget, and that's what made Liverpool buy him. It's hard to believe he was a Liverpool striker.
He was a goal machine once upon a time.
He was. and you never know. He might start to get it back a little bit. So on a very awkward, tricky fixture. This I'd feel much more confident if I was a Spurs fan, if I was playing a team, certain teams anyway, higher up in the table, because Palace, they just do enough to stay up, and they're real spoilers, aren't they?
They are.
You know, I think you've got to give Roy Hodgson some credit. I mean, I don't know how he does it, quite frankly, but he keeps them up. So he seems to fit there somehow. After his performance at Liverpool, it's a mystery that he ever got a job again, but he seems to do the job for Palace.
He certainly does. 11th versus top of the table then. Crystal Palace against Spurs is Sunday, 10:15 p.m. The Manchester Derby, first one of the season, is 6th versus 7th. Sunday, 1:30 a.m. kickoff. If you told Man United fans at the start of the season, come the Manchester Derby, Bob, your team will be above City going into the Manchester Derby. I think a lot of United fans will go, yeah, I will take it. But looking at this one and knowing how Ole goes into big games, I mean, do you think he'll go into this one defensively? United at home, they aren't great at home this season. So will he? Is the best mode, is the best way to get a result in this game to attack City, or do they sit back and play on a break?
Well, Ole's natural instinct is to attack. But having said that, if he's under pressure, he tends to be a little bit negative. So I think without a crowd, he may be rather cautious. But I think if there was a crowd there, for a Manchester derby, he might just be tempted to go for it. I can just imagine, the Stretford end would be in full voice, as they have been. They spoilt it for City a couple of years ago. Remember, when City were trying to win the league in about February or something, and United did them over most unexpectedly.
Rashford.
No, but I think this is coming at the wrong time, really, for United, and the right time for City.
Yeah.
I mean, Aguero came back, just tapped in a typical poacher's goal in midweek, just had a little run out and looked fairly sprightly. I think he's primed to make a big impact, and they've been missing him. I think you can put their absence or their relatively small reward of goals this season down to his absence, and he's back. Let's hope he can stay fit for most of the season. I think with that, and City have been gradually improving. Their defence looks a bit more solid. So I think City are going to be going into this in a very positive frame of mind.
Just going back to what Bob said earlier, Des, the fact that there are no fans in the stadium this season, we actually haven't seen a Premier League manager sacking. We're into December now. Has it helped managers on the brink more, the fact that there haven't been any fans in the stadium?
Oh, good question. There's been more social media rubbish flying around about managers. Everybody seems to have an opinion. Yeah, I know. But that's a good question. Yeah, maybe a great example would be David Moyes. Maybe if West Ham. So I've got a theory about David Moyes. Just deviating for a sec. He's taken all the vaccines for the West Ham fans. He's put them all in himself. He's there. No West Ham fans allowed to go to the games. That's just a nice little conspiracy theory for you. So,
David Pfizer Moyes, we shall call him.
There's a place in Brentford not far away in Pfizer, I think. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, it's possibly there, but if there's less pressure, how does that explain Man United's dreadful home form? Because they've only just got that one victory in the league, and they scraped that against West Brom. Would the crowd have actually been able to help them and push them forward, or would it have been the United fans getting onto the back of Man United? I say this because I look at when the goals have been scored. United have scored a phenomenal number of goals late in games. It's over 40% in the last 15 minutes. That's 8 of their 17 goals have come in the last 8 of their 19 have come in the last 15 minutes of games. So is that because there's no crowd, or would the crowd have made that an even bigger differential, as it sometimes can do if you're chasing? I need to contrast that stat. Manchester City, nearly a third of their goals, more than a third, have come in the first half hour of matches. So Manchester City start well, Man United leave it late, and there's a real balance. I don't know how it addresses your no fans question, but it is an interesting one. In this game, the first goal is really, really going to matter. If it's City, they'll walk away with it. If it's United, or if United keep it tight, I'd begin to hedge my bets towards United.
It'll probably be City first goal, Bob. It always works out that way, doesn't it?
Well, as I say, with Aguero,
strangely, Aguero, Aguero. Pep Guardiola, after the European game, alluded to the fact that Aguero would not start. He kind of said that Aguero is not ready to start a full game yet. So we may see him on the bench, or it's just part of mind games. Who knows? Yeah.
257 goals he's scored for City,
That's phenomenal.
257.
I wonder how many inside the 6-yard box, because that goal in midweek. I know they missed that little scrappy little tap-in that Jesus doesn't get. But Aguero just seems to react so quickly. You just look at his movement in that goal he scored in midweek against Marseille. He's just on the move. It's incredible.
Yeah. Classic poacher's goal. Not every striker scores. I thought of the great description about Jimmy Greaves, a name that older listeners might have recalled. Jimmy Greaves was like Aguero. Didn't do a lot of running around, but inside the 6-yard box in particular, he was a great sniffer of goals. And the Times correspondent called him the Fagin of the penalty area. So if anybody's read Charles Dickens, you'll know what Aguero
Kids
is a
don't
Fagin.
Read these days, Bob, unfortunately. So.
Unfortunately, but there's somebody out there that will.
Yeah.
He's the new Fagin of the penalty area.
All right, it is set up nicely for you. Sunday, 1:30 a.m., the Manchester Derby, United versus City. Everton in 9th, take on Chelsea in 3rd. This one's a Sunday, 4 a.m. kickoff. Chelsea, we mentioned earlier, are looking for their 5th win in 6 matches. They also, clean sheets seem to come easily for Frank Lampard's side these days. They're going along nicely. Everton, I was reading an article which said Everton went off the boil largely because James Rodriguez went off the boil, and that was largely because there were long-haul international breaks in that first month or 2 months of the season. And now we might start to see him come good again. Plausible, Des Corkill?
No, they went off the boil because they were celebrating winning the league after 4 matches.
You'll never let that one go, will you? Eh?
I won't. Calvert-Lewin has taken most of the plaudits for the number of goals he scored. But I think Richarlison and Rodriguez as a pairing, that makes it... If only one of them is there, you can snuff out that danger. If they're both there, prompted by the midfield, Gomez, I think, is very underrated. Even Sigurdsson, when he gets time to create chances. But Richarlison and Rodriguez, they make Everton a much bigger goal threat. And Calvert-Lewin will poach within the 6-yard box, strikers' goals. So you take one of them out, and I think Everton are much reduced. But an interesting hypothesis, Everton are better than the position that they are. They should be giving Chelsea a really, really tough game. Looking forward to this. This could be a humdinger. This is the kind of game that needs a crowd. I imagine Goodison full. Oh,
absolutely. Richarlison is a weird one, Bob. Everton's stats without him, I think they haven't won since they've signed him when he's not played, which is crazy. Considering his goal return and assist return isn't that great if you look at it, but he brings a lot more to this Everton side, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does. And yeah, I agree with what Des has said there. And I think James Rodriguez is a quality player. There's no question about that. He can look a little bit delicate. And, you know, when you get stories about him not liking the travelling, he was also blowing into his hands last week at Turf Moor. At least he didn't wear gloves. Give him that. But I think he's got to realise that this can be a different proposition in the Premier League in England with the cold weather. When you get into December, you've got about 7 games in December, followed by another 7 or 8 in January, and the wind blows, and it's probably a different climate to anything he's played in before. I mean, he was in Germany, but they have a winter break. And he didn't play much anyway. He played in Spain and, of course, Colombia. I mean, some South American players do find it difficult to adjust. I mean, they're coming from a different continent, a totally different climate, and they do have a lot more traveling to do than anybody else. And I think you have to cut them a little slack there. But I think under the stewardship of Carlo Ancelotti, he'll know what to do, and I think he'll get the best out of Rodriguez. I think we're going to see him adapt to these circumstances because he has got the quality. Yeah. And I think, you know, with careful tutelage and good quality teammates around him, I think he'll flourish. So I think it's only been a blip. I mean, you get back to the old thing about form being temporary, class being permanent. Well, he's got class, no question about it.
Yeah, and the top players do adapt. So a lot to come. And as Des already said, it's going to be a cracker, this one. 4 a.m. kickoff, Everton 9th against Chelsea 3rd. Looking forward to Fulham in 17th, taking on second place Liverpool. This one's Monday, midnight kickoff. Jurgen Klopp's men are unbeaten in their last 7 Premier League fixtures. They are in the midst, supposedly, of an injury crisis. I mean, we've talked about Liverpool in the European games, Des, how well they've blended in the youth, and Klopp even gave Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold full 90 minutes in midweek. So if they break down knackered, Klopp's going to take the blame this weekend, yeah?
No, not really. He only played 3 who have all been out injured. So Fabinho was out injured for a while. Salah been out injured. Trent Alexander-Arnold been out injured. So this is kind of a comeback trail for them. I personally thought it was a very sensible team selection. But then again, I don't think Jurgen Klopp can do any wrong in any stretch of the imagination. Anyone who criticises, you've got me to answer to. But but this is a potentially little awkward one because I think Fulham are an improving team. I still expect them to be really struggling, but they showed in their comeback loss against Everton and a little bit last week almost against Man City, where I thought they were a little bit hard done by, not with the first goal, but the penalty. The penalty is just so rubbish. And I thought Fulham played reasonably well. So I think they're a much improved team. They're beginning to find a little bit of confidence at this level. At home, if there were fans, again, it's very different. At home might cause a problem to Liverpool, but Liverpool's form is really, really good. They just swatted Wolves away. Wolves was a really, really tough game, and they swatted them away. And they swatted Leicester away. And they won at Ajax. And other than that Atalanta defeat, where, again, it was half a team, and the injustice of Brighton, they're just incredible. And they've not even played at 70% of their capacity yet, and they've got players to come back. So it'll be a major shock if Fulham do win. But, you know, first goal makes a big difference.
Fulham, the fact that Fulham won at Leicester has given them a bit of hope, I think. But this is a massive ask. Looking at this Liverpool side, Bob, and with January coming up, is there a signing that you think Klopp should make or could make that would guarantee them the title and the Champions League double this year? Is there a player out there?
Well, there are no guarantees, as you know. I mean, I think it looked as if they would have to make a signing when Gomez was injured. But what's happened since then, with Fabinho coming back, Matip managing to stay fit for quite a few games, and youngsters being tried and doing well, that urgency is not there any longer. I mean, if they've lined somebody up, which they may have done, perhaps they were thinking of terms of buying somebody in the summer, long term, but they could have brought it forward for January or something like that. That's possible. They'll have a list of players. Michael Edwards is the man whose his judgment has proved absolutely spot on. They haven't hardly bought a dud for years, and this has been a major
Who would have thought,
factor.
a sporting director doing his job would work? Who would have thought?
Quietly as well, quietly.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a club whose name escapes me at the moment, but they don't have one, and
Sure.
and I think it shows. No, I don't know. They may still buy somebody in January, but as I say, it's probably somebody that they were always going to get, that they've been looking at for a long time, because that's how they do their business. They got somebody lined up.
He would fit the mold, yeah.
Yeah, if the selling price becomes extortionate, as the club realizes they need, bodies, they probably won't buy. They'll say no, just as they didn't get Timo Werner, for example. Even though they paid almost as much for Diogo Jota just afterwards. But if they say no, they won't buy, because these kids have done a remarkable job.
Yeah.
I mean, the big test is still to come. I mean, you've got the FA Cup coming into it. You've got the run-in for the title, and then you've got the business end of the Champions League. You've got all that to consider, and we know what the fixture congestion can be like towards the end of a season. And if someone else were to get injured, they could still be struggling, and it's going to be a big ask to expect someone like Williams or Phillips to play a run of games in the Champions League, quarterfinals against Bayern Munich or something like that later on. That would be a big ask. So it could be that they'll get somebody, yes.
Okay, it's a big ask for Fulham, that is for sure. 17th place second, Monday, midnight, that one kicks off. Leicester in 4th take on 16th place Brighton. Monday, 4 a.m. kickoff. Since being promoted to the Premier League in 2017, Brighton have failed to beat Leicester in 6 attempts. Leicester, well, they're coming off a Champions League win. They beat Athens 2-0, Cengiz Under and Harvey Barnes with the goals for them. We've always said that Brendan Rodgers, he's I don't know, maybe found exactly the right club for him to shine. You see Leicester are challenging. They're up near the top. They're in the Europa League, qualified for the next round, no problems. They're set to have a good season here, even after 10, 11 games gone here, Des.
They are having a good season, and I think you do Brendan Rodgers a big disservice. He wasn't too shabby at Liverpool. So I think, and he wasn't too bad at Celtic either, where he took them to, you're seeing the difference a good coach with Celtic makes. Brendan Rodgers compared to Neil Lennon, it's chalk and cheese. And Rodgers, they suffer the odd, strange defeat. That defeat against Fulham was a strange one, wasn't it? And they struggled in the Europa League against Braga and Zora, although the job had been done by then. They scraped past Sheffield United yesterday. Incidentally, I hope the corner flag's okay.
Jamie Vardy at
Okay.
gmail.com.
So they're on a mini slump. Not a slump, but they're just going off the boil a little bit. But they play nice football. They play it in the right way. I think defensively they're not as sound as they might be. I think you can get at Leicester. And Vardy, they're perhaps over-reliant upon for those late goals. But yeah, they're competitive. They'll be there or thereabouts in that race for the Europa League. Maybe even the Champions League if they can get some real consistency going.
Yeah. Then don't forget they have got players out as well, as Brendan Rodgers often points out, and a lot of them come in defence. Okay, the opponent's Brighton, 16th there, Bob. If you've seen any Brighton this season, and a lot of us have seen quite a lot of Brighton, you'll be surprised at that 16th place, because they're not 16th. They're much better than that.
Yeah, they don't score enough, do they? I think that's their problem. I mean, they're a nice, organised side, play some tidy stuff, don't concede that many goals, but they just don't score enough. I think that Graham Potter has done a very good job there. They're more attacking-minded than they were under Chris Hughton, by far. But the finished product is not quite there. Just about enough to stay up, as they did last season. But I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't go and buy somebody in the January transfer window, actually. A striker.
They need a centre-forward, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, so many clubs do. But I think they do more than most, actually, because they seem reasonably solid elsewhere. So it's just that final, just putting the ball in the net, the old thing. That's what they're lacking.
Danny Welbeck's probably got 3 more appearances in him before the hamstring twang. I'm being cruel. No, Leicester against Brighton is 4th against 16th. It is your Monday 4 a.m. kickoff. Arsenal in 15th against Burnley in 18th. This one is Monday 4 a.m. Yes, you heard me right. 15th against 18th. Arsenal are in disarray. Their Europa League form, Des Corkill, is completely different. They play the kids in the Europa League. They won 4-2 at Dundalk on Friday morning. Eddie Nketiah looks the real deal. In fact, I think he's their top scorer this season. He's only played like 2 Premier League games for them. Arteta's got his work cut out there, hasn't he?
Well, Arsenal in the midweek also play in blue, which I don't understand. Can somebody help me on this one? Why? It can't be about selling kit. You look in 20 years' time, there's a shot of Eddie Nketiah and he's wearing blue and he goes, who's he playing for?
I'm with you, Des. Blue versus green when your colour's red. I don't understand myself. Yes.
So it's almost identity. There's an identity problem at Arsenal. Maybe they're trying to re-identify with the George Graham teams where 1-0 to the Arsenal was the buzzword, except they're not getting the 1-0. They're on a loss run in the top flight. The only fortunate thing for them is that they're up against
Burnley. Yeah. I mean, which means it's got to work, Bob Holmes. And the fact that they've been trying to play Lacazette in this number 10 creative role, trying to push Aubameyang up front. Oba, incidentally, hasn't scored since he's signed a thing. But whilst all this is happening, and Mesut Ozil is sitting on the sidelines watching reruns of EastEnders, Coronation Street, and trousering £270,000 a week, don't you think question marks will hang over Arteta, Bob?
Well, yes, but I mean, you can't blame Arteta for paying him that ridiculous salary. Whether he should be integrated back into the team, yes, you can question Arteta over that. But he wanted to show that he was boss. He wanted the smack of firm government and no slacking, no shilly-shallying around. And so Ozil pays the penalty. But there are others who are slacking. Aubameyang, who you've just mentioned, not scored or barely had a worthwhile kick since he signed his contract. Ditto Willian, who got a 3-year contract from Arsenal, who was always a very wholehearted player for Chelsea. I thought he was great. I was a fan of his. But he's not done a thing since he's moved to Arsenal. He's secured his deal, he's secured his pension, and he's loitering around. He hardly gets in, doesn't deserve to from what we've seen of him. So my answer to this would be to play the kids, to play the Thursday night team. I think that these guys would have a bit of a shock if they suddenly saw that they were on the bench or even out of the squad altogether, and you had your Nketiahs and your Baloguns. He's another one.
Yeah, Balogun, yeah.
Very promising youngster. Saka, I would play him. He hardly gets in and out of the side. They've got some very talented young players, Arsenal, and their hunger puts these guys, these senior players, to shame. And I think dropping them en masse would do the club a lot of good.
I shudder to think what will happen if Burnley come away with a win here. Yeah, exactly. Des is shaking his head. Arsenal in 15th, Burnley in 18th, Monday 4 a.m. kickoff. Some of the other ties, there's a Friday night game. You've got Leeds against West Ham. The entire Leeds team was unveiled by Bielsa in midweek. Wolves against Aston Villa. Villa have lost each of their last 3 away against Wolves, but Wolves are missing a focal point in Jimenez. Newcastle against West Brom. A lot of talk that Slaven Bilic could be on his way out with another loss. Do you see that happening, Bob Holmes? Can Newcastle put the nail in the coffin for Bilic and West Brom?
They're capable of doing that, yeah. Very hard to predict, Newcastle. Struggling along just above the relegation zone. They survived okay with some comfort last season. Haven't spent a lot of money. Steve Bruce doing Trojan work there and not being appreciated by the fans. I don't think he's getting a fair crack, and he's probably another manager, rather like David Moyes, who's glad that fans aren't there to boo him and what have you. So they could. If you did a list, I think you'd probably get into double figures of the managers who are grateful there aren't any fans, and Steve Bruce would certainly be one.
I'm going to wrap up with an astonishing stat here. Steve Bruce has lost 28 games against promoted sides. That's more than any other manager in Premier League history. It should be a good one. That's your Match Week 12 weekend. From Des Corkill, Bob Holmes, and myself, we wish you a merry weekend, and we will see you next week.